Welcome back to Militia Madness podcast episode, I don't know, 6?
5. Because we did the one initial and then this is our fourth color. Right?
Episode 5.
Yeah.
Counting is hard. Today we are going to cover, as well as what's coming up in the week. We're also going to cover red cards. Because we're doing something different next week. I mentioned it in the gameplay video. I had to cut a lot out of that gameplay video because I was very tilted and very salty, and it just wasn't good content. But we're gonna do some more. I feel like Morgan and I have reached and kind of showcased what's competitive and tier 1 in this format. So we're gonna try to do some more, not bad decks, but more tier 2 casual fun stuff. That we think is possible in this format and not necessarily possible in regular Pauper formats. We're also going to be playing other formats. Militia is not going anywhere. I think it's going to be the heart and soul of this channel. But Morgan and I both like Vintage Cube, so doing a draft of Vintage Cube would be fun. And we have the ability to do that now, so that'd be cool.
Yeah.
And interesting enough, I guess I'll talk about what next week is going to be. But the schedule will shift to, we're going to finish up the what ifs. So that means Abzan versus Sultai, and then a Jeskai mirror match. And then after that, I think we're going to go week in, week out for a little bit. We're going to play Militia for 1 week, and then we're going to do something different for another week. So if you have suggestions of non-Militia format you'd like to see, put it down in the description, comment section below.
Yeah.
Because we're thinking about stuff like Dual Commander and Canadian Highlander and stuff like that. Obviously with proxies, because I don't really want to buy Underground Seas and Tundras. But, we will probably proxy stuff with the more expensive formats. But I'm not opposed to playing something like Legacy or Vintage or something like that.
Yeah, be good. And then I did see recently, like, 2015 Modern is cropping up, so we could try that at some point.
Mm-hmm. Or like a flashback standard format, like you and I both love Khan's BFZ format.
Yeah.
Things like that. Anyways, today we have myself up for the Militia Madness Spotlight, and the card I want to talk about is Fanged Flames. For those of you who don't know, 1 in a red, devoid sorcery. It deals 4 damage to target creature or planeswalker. Not relevant in our format. There are no legal planeswalkers.
Yeah.
And if that creature or planeswalker would die this turn, exile it instead. It is a red, colorless burn spell that kills Guardian of the Guild Pact.
Yeah.
Essentially. But it also, 4 is a tough number for red removal spells to hit.
Yep.
It can't go face, but just being able to remove a 4 toughness guy is really, really relevant. There's just random 4 toughness dudes that exist out there. Palace Sentinel, a lot of greens, 4 drops like Hazard of the Dunes and Bannerhide Cruciak. Just gets those guys out of the way.
Yeah.
I think I said Palace Sentinels, like those kinds of cards. But it just has a lot of versatility. Exiling the card as well.
Yep.
Can matter too.
Yeah, that's what I was going to bring up, because there's a lot of incidental, like, good graveyard stuff, like Sneaky Snacker or, like, Molten Gatekeeper, all that. That's just like, if you hit with this, just does not get its ability to come back at all.
Yeah, Scrapwork Bunt, and then the Bannerhide Cruciak that I just said as well.
Yeah.
All matter in the graveyard. So just being able to just, kill it is really good. But again, I think its main versatility is killing Guardian of the Guild Pack, which I think is a much bigger threat in our format than regular Pauper. Just because it's such a big deal against, monocolored decks are playable and are good. So if you're in mono red against a Guardian of the Guild Pack, you're just great.
Even in multicolor, it's hard to make sure that you pack the right dual color or devoid
Mm-hmm.
removal spells. So like just having an easy option is very nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's nice that it doesn't deal 3 too, so it can sometimes kill it through a buff as well.
Yeah.
Not very often, but sometimes.
Okay.
All right. Now, speaking of red cards, kind of, sort of, not really. It's devoid, but it's still red.
Red commander identity.
Uh, mm-hmm. We're gonna talk about red cards today. So, I think red echoes a lot of what white was doing. So, red for me in this format is still a very aggressive deck. Like almost all of the red commanders are some variation of burn, whether it is a slow burn or a quick burn deck or like a mid-range burn deck. It's just like I can't imagine mono red taking the game long.
Yeah. Yeah, like red's like strength are that it can come out of the gate pretty nicely and
Mhm,
also get a little bit of reach generally. In addition to
mhm.
having some of the cheapest removal spells.
Yeah, yeah, and the haste creatures and it's a very good like I think on its own it's very weak. Just in its versatility in mono red specifically, unless you're playing Zada, which is a little bit different. Mono red to me feels very one note. But I think when you start to pair it with other colors, it gets a lot more versatile. So like red white can be a lot of different stuff. It can be the old Boros Bully style decks that we used to see in Pauper. It can do that in this format. It can also be a token deck. We've seen that with Arabella.
Yeah, and Valmore as
It,
well as tokens.
mhm, yep. Uh, and it can also bring a lot of artifact support as well. Basically, it has one of I think we should do a single card spotlight type here. It has one of the best artifacts in our format, possibly with experimental synthesizer. I think that card is very, very, very good. It's kind of why black red artifacts are so like I think that deck is really, really good. And if we were to have tournaments, I think it would be very dominant
Yeah.
just because of how good sacrificing an experimental synthesizer is, and the artifacts you get in red are also stuff like Molten Gatekeeper, and if you get black, you get access to like Black Mage's Rod.
Yeah, and then
It
like
allows you to play
oh
this mid-range game with like so much pressure.
yeah, and then like all like the early stuff in it is also like mostly tilting towards the artifact stuff because if you see stuff like Clockwork Percussionist happens to be an artifact, Voldaren Epic Her happens to make an artifact, and then like Goblin Tomb Raider also is like artifact synergy as like some of your best ones. So like
Hmm.
leaning into the good artifact side of red also just makes you inherently more aggressive, which is nice.
Hmm. And Reckless Lackey too kind of goes into that artifact sub theme because you can sacrifice it to make an artifact, so it turns on Galvanic Blast really, really well, and also like Great Furnace and Vault of Whispers.
Yeah, you can also
Black
get like
Red just
Goblin
feels very,
Blast
very.
Runner in there if you want to like go
Hmm.
even more into like what you're
That
counting
one
on.
too. Hmm.
But yeah, it's good stuff.
Hmm. Yeah, I think red. It's weird because once it gets access to a second color, that's where its versatility shows, which is odd. Because, yeah, but I think that's a what the commanders are telling you to do, right? Like I think if they printed a mid range, like I've been toying around with the is it the 4 mana mono red Zuko?
Oh yeah, with fire breathing and like exile the top card.
Uh huh.
Yeah.
I think a mid range red deck is really, really close. It's just if you're like weighing power level, I don't know why you would play that over just get him. you know. Um, I guess we should talk about red's removal, like the staple red removal spells in our format, because I think they're different than regular popper. And there is one outlier that I'll talk about in a second. I think we both know what it is, but I think you start with the triad of lightning bolt, galvanic discharge, and chain lightning.
Yeah.
and you can kind of customize from there. But I think a lot of decks that are leaning into red for their removal will play those three first. So like red green decks in particular will probably be ones that play all three of those when they want the removal.
Yeah, and then like another like quick one after that is like Scred, and then
That was the one.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
If you want to make concessions to your mana base.
yeah. Which honestly, unless you're like a Gates deck, like you don't have to make that many concessions to feel okay about it.
Hmm.
Because
Well,
like
it's weird because
yeah,
red green in particular is torn in that way because Basilisk Gate slots into so many red green decks so easily. We'll talk a little bit more about that when we get into green, but basically like green has the best ways to search Basilisk Gate with crop rotation and open the gates are just cheap ways of finding it. Because if you're not finding it through those cards, you're finding it through like navigation orb or expedition map or uh world map, I think is the other one, but world map is so much more expensive and so much more awkward
yeah,
than the other two. Um well, it's not as expensive as navigation orb is, but the upside of navigation orb is it both finds your Basilisk Gate and makes your Basilisk Gate okay. Basilisk Gate for +1/+1 is just like oftentimes not good enough to do anything really impressive. But Basilisk Gate for 2 and 3, now you're starting to, you put that on a trampler, you're getting in through a lot more damage. You put that on a lifelinker, and you're getting through damage, and you're winning races and stuff like that. Which is why I think Navigation Orb is playable in non-green Basilisk Gate decks because you just don't have ways of finding it. But yeah, what it's weird because red, I would say, doesn't really have that many good Basilisk Gate targets, but what it allows you to do is remove stuff and have the versatility in your removal to be like, oh, I've beaten it with Basilisk Gate a bunch. This lightning bolt can now go face
yeah, yeah. Like
and help close out
the
games.
Basilisk Gate and like that kind of matchup is like and red specifically is not like trying to be like I put it on a vase of guys trying to be the abyss.
Hmm. Yeah, it's why I think red. It's weird because any color you pair with red has dope Basilisk Gate targets, and you're not playing Basilisk Gate in a monocolor deck. You're just not. Uh, you're not doing it.
Well, yeah, if you're a
Um,
monocolor commander, you can literally only play one gate. Well, two gates besides Basilisk Gate.
yeah, you could play. Well, there's three,
Keep
right?
Gate
Because
and Cave or and then the Red Gate, and that should be it besides the Basilisk Gate itself, right? Well,
well,
no, you can
Gateway
play the
Plaza.
really bad one that you have to pay one mana for.
Yeah, you can play Gateway Plaza, but
That's not real.
it's yeah, no, it's not. Um, but you can do it. Um,
Gateway Plaza is
which
not
is
real and it
funny.
can't
But
hurt you.
yeah, it's not great. So I think like blue has some dope stuff, black has some really good stuff. So yeah, it's weird um with yeah, I'm slowly getting to the point where I'm removing Basilisk Gate from my non-green decks. Just because I want to be closing with Basilisk Gate in my deck, I want to be closing out the game and not giving my opponents time to react to an abyss. Because I think that's a thing that I've had trouble with in the past in a lot of games is I'll establish a dominating board state, but the problem is in this format you can't like attrition people out the same way you can in regular Pauper because they have this resource sitting over there in the command zone, and a lot of commanders are just good. Like we're not playing the legends, like
Yeah.
Patrick Starfish. I can't remember what his in-universe name is. He'll be on the screen, but
Is it
like
Odeon?
every commander is good. You know, they're not just creatures with stats. They do stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that. Um,
Yeah,
just commanders existing the way they are, the control decks have to shift to being able to put more pressure on. So that's why I like Basilisk Gates and a lot of the green mid range decks.
before we got onto
Um,
Basilisk, we were talking about removal.
hmm Yeah, so the two removal spells that I do want to put a focus on, and then like an asterisk on another one that I just thought of,
Because I have two as
are
well.
Incinerate and Lightning Strike. These two cards are basically unplayable in regular Pauper, I would say.
Oh, definitely.
Um, but in our format, I think they thrive. I think they are when you're relying on red for your removal, like green red decks or maybe even blue red decks. Um, I think those are the second tiers of cards you go to. Maybe Burst Lightning and Firebending Lesson
Yeah, and then
are up
Thunder
there as
Magic is
well.
also in that on the better burst lightning effects.
Yeah, Thunder Magic's a lot more expensive to
Like it initially starts as just like the burst lightning, and its second was actually 4 mana instead of 5 mana, which is why I pointed it out.
Yeah, that's true. You get a discount when it's just yeah.
When you're going
It's
for the
just
middle
its
mode.
highest mode is 7 mana.
Yeah, let me double check real quick. Its highest is gonna be, yeah, 7 mana because it's double red and 5 is what it'll end up being. But if you just need to get
Mhm,
up to 4, like you're doing with like the other things, like having that one cheaper is actually pretty nice.
mhm.
And we were talking earlier about like how much like 4 is a relevant number.
Yeah, that's true.
But the fun thing is these aren't even the two that I was thinking of as my extra ones. But we can talk about like lightning strike and at first, which
Yeah, I think those are the tier that along with like Burst Lightning and Firebending Lesson, Thunder Magic 2, these are the types of like when you want to get to an 8 of removal suite, especially something like Counterburn wants to get up to that level of numbers, these are the types of things you're playing. Right. You'll slot in Lightning Bolt and Chain Lightning and Galvanic Discharge. Although not always.
yeah,
I have played red decks that don't want Galvanic Discharge, for example, just
yeah, like
because I
if
want
you're
the
wanting to go
versatility of being able to go
face,
face.
yep, yeah, then
Yeah.
like the lightning strike and all that'll be better because it's incinerate and searing spear. I think we forgot to mention searing spear.
Yeah, Searing Spear as well. You'd play three of those.
Yeah,
Unless you're worried about slots. Unless you get to eight and it's like whichever you prefer between Lightning Strike and Searing Spear kind of thing. You're always going to play Incinerate because it has that line of text. Um, but Lightning Strike and Searing Spear are the same thing. It's why sometimes
oh, I'll need a second.
people will play Krenko's Command over Dragon Fodder or Dragon Fodder over Krenko's Command. It's like I didn't want 8 of that effect, so I played 4 of it. That type of thing. And then the one with an asterisk that I had is Fire Blast, which is kind of a removal spell, but not really. I don't think you're putting it in with the intention to remove something. To me, Fire Blast is like Fire Blast to the face.
Yeah,
Same with Goblin Grenade. Goblin Grenade is also a burn spell that's legal in our format, but I think it's only good if you can reliably cast a goblin, i.e., you have a goblin as your commander.
yeah. Well, like if you are in a more removal heavy deck and like not searching for face, we do have a fire blast for that, which is Mind Collapse, which was on my list of like
Mm-hmm.
stuff. And
Mind Collapse is also up there, yeah.
yeah, and
That's kind of
then
the difference, right? Like Fire Blast is a very aggressive burn spell. Mind Collapse is a little bit more mid-rangey or controlly.
yeah, and then there's another one in that same vein, which is Magmatic Sinkhole, which are very nice because they can hit these 5 numbers, which are very rare.
Mm-hmm. I think there's also another free one called Thunderclap.
Yeah, Magmatic Sinkhole is not free, but it can get down to 1 mana and do 5, which is nice. And then I do have 2 more like shock effects that are very good that I think we've not played enough yet.
Yeah. Oh, I don't play shocks.
Well,
Three to me is the magic
sorry,
number.
Shock Plus, which is how a lot
Oh,
of these
sure.
work.
Yeah.
So, which are Fiery Impulse, which is shock that with Spell Mastery turns into a creature-based bolt.
Yeah.
And then we
I've
got
been playing that in like control decks that care a lot about probably like the Tolarian Terror. Is it Terror decks? I can see Fire Impulse being slotted
yep.
into.
And then there's also Scred 1.5, which is Frostbite. which
Yep, you
is
you
yeah,
play yep
yeah,
in decks where you choose to play in two color decks. I don't think three color decks can really well. Three color decks have a harder time of it sometimes because you want more dual lands, which means you have to dilute the number of snow lands in your deck. But I think in terms of like blue red is where you're going to see a lot of these pop up, and the blue red pilots are often going to have a lot of versatility in what they're playing and why they're playing.
yeah. And like I
So
think
if
if you want to do it on three color, you just have to make the concession of you're gonna have to play some of the like evolving wild style effects, like the New Capenna ones, just to like be like I need to get basic searches off of my non basics.
yeah, it's still like I don't know the uh,
Why I mention that is because I will be playing it in my Jeskai list.
yeah. I saw that. I was like, oh, okay. And I think if you're leaning into a control-ish version that is relying on red for its removal, i.e., which doesn't really exist in our format, is the problem.
Yeah,
Like the three color red decks are, well, I guess Rocco could do it, right? But Rocco, if you're building it control, feels like you're losing a lot.
oh yeah,
Like I think Rocco just being able to tutor out creatures and just like push the aggression is just better. And with Cormella and Mr. Rafiro, I think the problem with relying on red as your main removal color when you want to dip into this red stuff is you have terminate and cast down and go for the throat that kill just as big enough thing and snuff out that kill just these big enough things and don't require you to play that. So that's my only problem with like the three color red decks is I think it'd be great in Jeskai, but Jeskai doesn't exist. Jeskai
yeah,
just there it's not a legal thing in our format. So I don't when you have access to black removal, I don't see Scred popping up nearly as much, especially when you look at it a real world budgetary constriction. Um Snow covered islands are expensive. And not having to buy them is probably the path I would take, and just play black removal because it's 35 cents. Is where I would be in Grixis and Jund if I wanted to build controlling versions of those. Is my only problem with Scred.
yeah.
But yeah, that's removal. And like in terms of like threats, oh, actually, there's another archetype that Red really, really, really supports, which is Madness. Um, we should talk about that too because it has in itself, contained in just red, it has outlets in things like Faithless Looting and Cathartic Reunion
Yep, grab the
and
prize.
yep, Grab the Prize, things like this. And it has madness removal spells in the stuff like
Fiery temper.
Fiery Temper, Alchemist Greeting, Electro's Bolt. Electro's Bolt is Mayhem, but I'm
It's
rounding
effectively
up.
madness.
Mayhem
Yeah,
and Madness are very, very similar. Because very rarely do you Madness stuff on your opponent's turn. I've found while playing this deck in Militia. It's just not a thing I do all that often.
but yeah, like a lot of the enablers are sorcery speed.
Yeah. Um, and when they're instants, it's like cracking a blood.
Yep.
That's like your instant speed way to do it. Because you still play like Blood Fountain and Voldaren Epicure and stuff like that in Madness decks just because they're good. Um, and then it has payoffs like Reckless Worm and Spider Islanders,
Yeah.
um, and a bunch of other stuff. I'll put a third one on the screen, but I can't remember their names. Just big dumb idiots with madness and or mayhem, and three different commanders that let you access to have black red. So I think madness is also a pretty important aspect of what red's trying to do. So much so that I think you probably in regular burn decks or whatever can splash a fiery temper or things of that nature.
Yeah, like grab the prize is not that bad to run anyway. So like if you're like just
Mm-hmm.
playing like a generic red burn deck, like Fiery Timber being mildly overcosted can be a pretty okay benefit, especially if you just want to put in like a value Faithless Looting or like Storm Shriek
Mm-hmm.
Feral anyway, because it can be good in the
Mm-hmm.
late game.
Mm-hmm. Stormstreak Pharaoh is also a very important part of that deck because it both functions as a way to enable madness and a way to just like, all right, well, I got 5 mana, attack
Yes.
you.
Yep. And then it
You
starts
know.
starting fire breathing after that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think those are like the core abilities of red. I would say it burns, it kills, it madnesses, and it's really, really good in the artifacts decks. It's probably the second best artifact color just because black is very, 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 very good at interacting with artifacts. And a lot of the times, if you're in an artifact deck, you're black, not necessarily red. You know, blue black can do some stuff. White black also has a lot of like artifact synergies too. So, but red is very, 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 very good at it too. I guess we can touch on the two color decks just as a refresher because we've covered most of them at this point. Um,
Yeah.
White red is, I think we mentioned at the beginning, is very, 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 very versatile. You can do Boros Bully, you can play tokens, you can play burn, you can play a more controlish version. There's the new TMNT, the neutrinos,
Neutrinos, yeah.
which to me is a very like Boros Bully type core Skyfisher type thing.
Yeah, and like we've seen Rograk and
Um,
Kelith, which was just like the commanders doing like a
mhm.
lot of work by themselves.
Yeah, you just play like a mid range deck that focuses on a curve because white is very, very good at curving out, and red is very, very good at like supporting that plan and also just giving you some more aggressively slanted burn spells. Blue red also feels very versatile to me. You could play artifacts. You're missing a little bit when you don't have black in your artifact deck, but I think a blue red artifact deck works. There are several different commanders that lean that way. It's Mananon or
Menon,
whatever.
yeah.
Yeah,
But
the
yeah, it can
thing
get
that
very aggressive.
that woman from Wicked Chances, Akramanam, and that guy. And then there's like Blue Red Control, which we've had on the
Yeah,
channel
with
with
Emperor
Emperor
Palamecia.
Palamecia. And then I think a Blue Red Talarian Terror deck exists in our format. You just port over um how it exists in Pauper, and you might have to change. You're gonna have to change the win conditions up. Like you'd only get one Talarian Terror and one Cryptic Serpent, but you also get a Sword Coast Serpent. You get a Murmuring Mystic. You get the blue and red Monarch creatures because you're just killing everything. So you can do that. Um, the other blue red deck that I think is underrepresented because we've played it once, but I had so much fun playing it was blue red Counterburn is definitely a deck that exists in our format in several different ways. I think I played it with a pirate sub theme, so you had a mana generator in your command zone as well as a card advantage engine in your command zone. But I think now I'd probably cut a lot of the worst pirates and play more counters and burn
Yeah, that
in my
makes
counter
sense.
burn deck.
Yeah, then it might be better to use a commander like Crom or something like that.
No, I mean like I think Malcolm and Breaches are just good on their own. And Malcolm can like just you know make mana, and Breaches can when you play. It also gives you a curve, a defined curve later in the game, where if you hit 3, you can play Malcolm, and then you can, if even if you don't hit a land, you can hit with Malcolm and then get a treasure to then play Breaches. And then now you're just online. The two by themselves are just really, really good together. Because Breaches doesn't have to hit them. It's just any pirate. So maybe play more of the evasive changelings and play that kind of stuff. But yeah, I think that deck's fine. Just play like the best pirates So like the artifact, the monarch package you'd play because they're pirates, uh, and things of that nature. I've even been messing around with that deck with like a goblin matron package of just really, really good versatile goblins like Sting Scourger that don't get any play. And we have the new 3-mana changeling that
Oh
goes and gets a
yeah,
basic. That's pretty good. Just having like a tutor package of that kind of stuff. And even something like Tarfire. Just having a little bit like Goblin Matron being a lot more utilized because of Goblin Grenade is another reason why I wanted to play Counterburn. But yeah, enough of blue red. I think I said a lot of the stuff is. Oh, it's also like blue red Delver
yeah.
tempo deck type
Also,
thing.
you do get some of the best like some good dual color spells in there too. Like, is it Charm and Fire Ice?
Is a charm, fire ice.
Yeah, and I guess we did skip over it with Black Red, but you get Terminate there, obviously.
Yeah, we can head there now. Black red to me feels
Oh yeah, sorry, we went with
again.
White
I
Red
think we said it.
first. My brain died.
I think we said it last week, but black red feels like if there's a will, there's a way to make it in black red. It just has access to so many good
Oh god,
cards. It
yeah.
has access to, I think you'd agree, the best removal spells in our format.
Well,
It
yeah, like
also has access to
unconditional is
like some
great.
really really good threats like Gurmag Angler. Um, really really good artifact package. It is the Madness deck. I think you'd be remiss if you didn't play black red as your Madness deck. Um, yeah, but it's also just very versatile. It can go in so many different ways. We've had 3 on the channel, and all 3 of them are very different from each other. Yeah, right. We've had Green Goblin.
Yeah,
Technically, we've had 4, but
yeah, we've had
one was just
Green
changing the
Goblin.
commander to another thing.
Yeah, then we've had what's it called? Black Waltz numbered 3 or whatever,
And
and
then,
then got Agent of the Shadow Thieves.
and then we had another black red deck, but that was the ban list episode, the no ban list episode. So
Yeah,
I don't really count that as representative of the format. But it was doing very similar things,
yeah,
but more busted.
yeah.
Uh,
Artifacts, Burn, and Madness are like 3 big Black Red archetypes.
mhm. But in those archetypes, there's so much you could play an aggro affinity deck. You could play a mid range affinity deck. You could play a control like those archetypes are just so broad that they allow you to really do whatever you want. And then red green is an archetype we've not talked about at all yet. Um, this to me feels like Basilisk Gate deck. Um, depending, like almost all the commanders to me just feel like, oh, this gets powered up by Basilisk Gate. Oh, this gets powered up by Basilisk Gate. Basilisk Gate and ways to search it from the green deck are just very, very good to me, I think. Red green feels like the zoo decks of old, where they're an aggro deck, but they're a creature based aggro deck. This is where we get like a lot of the pump spells. The red green gold cards being like Frenzied Airynx and Colossal Might and stuff like that. Hull Breach is a good sideboard card that only this deck gets access to, which I think is underplayed for how many red green decks have been in the format. Same thing with Ancient Grudge. Those 2 cards I think are a little bit underplayed in red green decks. But yeah, red green feels very mid range aggro creature based to me. I don't know if
Yeah.
you feel the same way.
I think a lot of it too. Like you can also play it as like some of the more rampy versions because like it does have the best ramp payoffs of the format, and that's why you see in like regular Pauper, the ramp deck is generally red green, unless they're going for initiative, which we don't really have.
We just don't have.
Yeah,
Everything with the word initiative on it is banned.
but yeah, because in regular Pauper you'll see like ramp decks that are white green for like the Goliath at 5 mana.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I would still call those decks mid range. I don't know. I've always considered ramp decks. The plan is still the same as your like zoo decks. It's just that instead of killing them with a wild Nakala, you're killing them with
Annoyed
I don't know.
Altasaur.
Yeah, but your plan's still the same. Like kill them before they develop anything, and like if ramp decks get into the late game and all their creatures get killed, you're still like as far behind as a unless you have a ramp focused commander that like Boralios or something like that. They can come in and generate value. You're still not great in the later stages of the game. You still want to close the game out reasonably quickly. It's just that with like Red Green Zoo, if you want to call it, which I do think exists in our format. Um, they want to be killing you with 1 and 2 drops, and Red Green Ramp is maybe a little bit more vulnerable than they are because the old Bolt the Bird ideology can sometimes be a problem. Uh, but instead of killing them with 1s and 2s, you want to be killing them with like 3s, 4s, and 5s. I don't think a lot of ramp decks are on that many. Like, you don't want to glut your deck with too many 6s and 7s and 8s. You know, you still want to be on the 1, 2, 3, 4 kind of curve.
Yeah,
At
like
least in my head, that's where the ramp decks are.
I feel like you should at least like definitely be having like good top, and it's just like mainly focusing on like flexible stuff. Like has been helpful. Like Greater Tanuki is surprisingly nice in that,
Sure,
and
but
then like
that's not a true. It says 6 on the top right corner, but that's kind of like countering Generosent as a 6 drop in every deck it's in. I don't think
if
it's.
you're more aggressively ramping and you drop Generosent on like turn 3 or 4, that is pretty scary.
Yeah, but it's not a true 6 drop, right? Like, it's not like Annoyed Altasaur, where if you don't pay 7 mana for an old Altasaur, he's just stuck in your hand, right? Things like Generosent and Tanuki and Oliphant and other things that are escaping me at the moment. These are like 6 drops for sure. They cost 6, but you can cycle them on 3, so you're not sitting on 5 mana because they blew up your elves and you have nothing to do.
Well,
That's kind of what I mean. You
yeah,
don't want
I
to be
was mainly
glutted with.
meaning that like these are how you can afford to run even more ramp payoffs by having them double as something else. Like you can run like your 5 good ramp payoffs, and then you can run like 5 medium ramp payoffs that also do something else.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. You don't want true, I'm putting air quotes, true 7 drops. Like, you don't want oh, what's the stupid dinosaur? You don't want like Colossal Dreadmaw and Spider Rex and Colossal Dreadmask and Annoyed Altasaur and the Monarch and it means that you can get away with playing like 5 or 6 true do nothing but cast for 6, and then you're like, oh, I can play this Oliphant because that's just as much of a threat, but now I can get away with it because it can go get a land and just help me hit land drops. Because there's that weird tension, right? You want your hand to look, and I think it's a weird tension that exists in regular ramp decks, but especially in our format because of singleton rules. You really, really more than any other deck in the format want to hit Mana Dork on turn 1 or 2. So you need to be on a lot of those. And then in green, there's also things like, I'm assuming you'd probably play both of these in our format, maybe not in regular Pauper, but you'd probably play like the 3 visits and Nature's Lures and Farseeks of the world as well. Maybe not Farseek.
Yeah, it really depends on what you're going for. Because like if like you don't need the land to be untapped, you can also play stuff like rampant growth as well. But if you are also like I just want to jump up to 3 and then coast, you can just stay on all like the 1 mana guys and then like just have like the 3 mana guys that make a treasure as like your second base and skip
Yeah,
over all the 2 mana
there's
rampers.
got to be a balance on your curve, and it's definitely gonna look like a mana curve, not a spike on 7. Was my point. You're gonna have a lot more 1s, 2s, and 3s than you are 6, 7s, and 8s.
Like
Probably.
kind of, yeah, like that is kind of just how like you have to build the decks in general. But like the nice thing about this too is you can also get like away with the draw spells in green as well. But to be fair, we're
Oh,
also supposed
sure.
to be talking more about the red side of this right now too.
Well, the red side is it's the burn, right? It's how you're interacting with other decks
Yeah. Well, it also
in
does get
that.
you the other Cascader.
Yeah, I've been cutting that guy. I just like he just dies so easily. And I've just not been impressed with what he can with what the I mean that's variance is the point on that guy. The card we're talking about, I guess I'll put him on the screen right now,
Yeah,
is
it's boarding
boarding
party.
party.
Yep.
Um he's a 6/3, right?
Something like that, and yeah, cascades and has haste.
Yeah, I believe he has haste. Because an old Althazar has reach and trample, right? Or just trample?
I believe reach and trample, but
Yeah.
yeah.
I've just not been impressed with boarding party in our format just in general. I think our format's a little bit slower and people are on weirdly more removal than they would be in a regular popper. I've found just because sometimes you want to kill commanders 3 times before it even matters that they're dead. So I've just not been impressed with a 6/3 with haste, is my personal take. Because I don't want to be on 6 or 7 high drops that don't do anything other than be high drops. I'm more on like the 4 or 5. And then I'll play stuff like General Tanuki and fill out my 4 slot a little bit more because you can
Yeah, like Writhing
my fours
Chrysalis is
and
really good.
threes a little bit more too.
Like at the 4 slot, like Writhing Chrysalis fills that in really nicely because it can ramp you up by 2 and also be a 4/5.
Mm-hmm. Rather, yeah. So I'd cut him over playing the little more mid-range stuff like Bannerhead Crew Shock and Hazard of the Dunes and the 2 3 mana guys that make a mana source.
Yeah, Jewel Thief, Eldrazi
Eldrazi
Repurposer.
Repurposer and Jewel Thief,
Yep.
those types of stuff. I've
Yeah,
also been experimenting with just other 3 drops because it gives you the drain curve of 1 drop on 1, 3 drop on 2, uh, which is like the more mid-rangey ramp decks want to do. Like you're not all in on the ramp. You're just like trying to. You still play some ramp payoffs. Like I'm never cutting Annoyed Altasaur in particular.
mhm.
Um, I've cut Writhing Chrysalis a lot from my red green
Yeah,
decks,
which
like a
I
lot.
don't really agree with you on that personally, but to each their
Yeah, well,
own.
I just think like a 4/5 with reach just doesn't do enough when you don't care
I think a 4/5 with reach
about
that
the
ramped you by
other.
2 for a turn is where like the rest of the value comes from.
Yeah, and then
It's
if you
just
can
like the
use
Jewel
that, but
Thieves
if
and all
you're
that.
cutting, if you're in the mid range decks that I'm playing, where you're cutting a lot of the higher end stuff, it's just it like I want to be playing more aggressive things that hold Basilisk Gate buffs a lot better. And I don't want to have to expend a Rancor to make this a good Basilisk Gate target. And I disagree with you that Basilisk Gate being an Abyss is good enough. I just don't think it is. You have so many decks that can just put out tokens on top of tokens that just being able to cut through those is really, really good. I think that also sometimes if you get into the later stages of the game with red decks, they just kill you. So that's a problem. I don't think it's bad, but I think you need to be in a red deck that can put a more spawn. Is it spawns or it makes spawns, right?
I believe it makes the 0 ones.
Yeah, so it makes spawns. That are on things like Nest Invader and Eldrazi Repurposer and things like that. That can make it bigger than a 4/5. I think if you're on those, a-okay. It's great because it turns your spawns into something more useful than a mana source, and I think that's good. It's also decent against Guardian of the Guild Pact as well because it is devoid,
Yep.
so you can block it, which is nice. It's also a reacher,
Yeah,
which
it also
is
can't be hydroblasted.
that's also true. It's a red in quotation marks creature that cannot be hydroblasted. Um, I just wanted to play more interesting 4 drops that I felt did a lot more to put pressure on in the decks that in the red green decks that I've been playing. In essence, the red green decks that I've been playing are just a little bit too aggressive, like Curd Ape and stuff like that. I want my creatures to not just be big. I want my early creatures to be big, but my late creatures to be killing them. And Writhing Chrysalis doesn't necessarily do that. Whereas something like Bannerhide Crew Shock or Hazard of the Dunes, even like Jewel Thief, the Tramp, and carries your
Oh, you're cutting out a bit. Yeah, you're completely.
gets an aggressive card.
You cut out until aggressive card.
Card. I just don't think it's an aggressive card.
Okay. Are you speaking now? Because you're not popping up on audio.
No,
Okay,
I
cool.
was.
Yeah, because I caught so little of what you said over the last little bit because of cutting out. So I was trying to make sure that's okay.
Yeah, I can repeat it one more time.
Sure.
I'm saying Writhing Chrysalis is not a bad card. It's just not an aggressive card. If that makes any sense.
And it makes enough sense. I think it threatens well enough, but yeah, I would still personally put in pretty aggressive decks, but that's me.
It just doesn't. It just doesn't do it. It's like a big dumb idiot, which is like fine, but in my big dumb idiots, I want the word trample somewhere on it. Um, Hazard of the Dunes is a 4/4 for 4, um, with no work or interaction points. Like you don't have to worry about them electrolyzing um,
That doesn't.
in response, and then it's just a 2/3.
That's not how that works.
It's a cast trigger, right? So you make the things, and then you can electrolyze in response to Writhing Chrysalis
Oh,
because
okay, I
make,
see. But yeah,
yeah,
if they have 3 mana up and that's
and then
what
it's
they're
a
doing,
2/3.
I'm honestly perfectly fine with that.
But it's like an aggressive deck. Paying 4 mana for a 2/3 is terrible. You would never do that. So it just allows you to get blown
Wait,
out in areas where Bannerhead Cruciak being a 4/4 that they have to kill the 4/4, or Hazard of the Dunes being a 4/4 where they have to deal with the 4/4, it's just more impressive than the floor on those creatures is a lot higher, and the ceiling's not as high, because it's like if you're playing a Rancor or things like that, then absolutely put Writhing Chrysalis in your deck. The 4/5/7/6/5 with Trample with that Rancor on it is great. And if you want to ramp a lot more into your like 6s and 7s and your 8 drops and things like that, like your Ulamog's Crushers of the world and stuff like that, okay, right? Like 4 mana, make 2 guys and have a threat left over is fine. It's just um I think you need to be able to clear the path or do something with a 4/5 reach. It's just not an aggressive. Um, it's barely an aggressive stat line. You get one more stat point on toughness, which is like one of the lesser relevant things in an aggro deck, I think. And it's just competing with so much in red green in particular. Like Frenzied Arinx is a 4/4 with haste and trample, or a 5/5 with trample for 4. Um, that's a really good card that it's competing against in the aggro decks, and it's competing against Hazard of the Dunes. It's competing against Bannerhide Crew Shock, and all of these different things. So I think just
I do want to
if
say
you are an aggro deck that's playing like Curd Ape and friends, I just don't see why you want 2/01s that don't
yeah, Frenzied
do
Daring starts
anything.
as a 3/3, not a 4/4.
Yeah, 3/3. Yeah. 3/3 with haste that you can pump up with trample, or a 4/4 with trample that you could then attack the next turn with trample, and it'd be bigger than and more impactful. So it's and then like it's competing against removal spells. It's also competing against like certain 5 drops. It's just I don't know. And how many 4s do you really want in that deck? Um, that's the those are my overall problems within it. Within an aggro deck, in a mid-range deck or a ramp deck, absolutely play it every single time because it allows you to go without even hitting a land drop, 4 into 6, and if you do hit a land drop, it allows you to go 4 into 7, and that's assuming that you're playing into an empty board, which is very rarely ever the case in a ramp deck. A lot of the times you'll have elves or whatever. So sometimes you can play that into a Ulamog's Crusher the next turn, which is great. And if you're playing a deck that could do that, do that.
Okay.
It's just that the aggressive decks that are on Curd Ape don't really top out at 6. They're topping out at like 4 or 5. And I'm not using the Scions, and it's just a dude. And that's just not as impressive.
Also,
And the other things it does where like blocks flyers, Hazard of the Dunes blocks flyers, and I don't really need to block flyers. I can just shoot them out of the sky with the more aggressive removal spell. So I'd also rather just have something with haste that like on 4 comes into play, or your commander a lot of the times is at 4 as well, so it competes with those slots. It's just at a very contentious spot in the mana curve and red green aggressive decks that aren't all in ramp decks. Is where I'm at.
Yeah. And then we are at 50 minutes.
Yeah, I don't think we really need to talk about. I think we've talked to death about every 3-color combination. So we can probably just cut it here if you wanted to. So
yeah, that makes sense.
Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, join the Discord. Oh, and really quickly, because we're going to use this podcast as a way to like tell you what's coming up in the week. This upcoming week, we are doing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but we're not doing a set review because we heard the message. You don't like them.
Yeah.
And we're not just going to open a bunch of booster boxes because you didn't like that either. So what we're going to do from this point forward is interact with it just the same way that a lot of people do. We are going to play sealed.
Yeah.
So how that's going to work is I have a booster box. Morgan's going to open 6 packs. I'm going to open 6 packs, and we're going to build a 40-card deck just like you would at your pre-release. And that'll be 3 different videos, plus a podcast at the end of the week. So you'll get one of our deck builds, the other deck build, and then a gameplay.
Yep. Okay. Then I think.
And then after that, you'll be getting our return to the what ifs with Abzan versus Sultai.
Yeah.
And then we'll probably finish that series up with Jeskai v Jeskai. And then we're going to be going to a week in, week out with Militia. I think I said that at the beginning of the video, but
yep, you did.
For my own sanity, we're going to play some limited stuff, and we'll try to get you 3 to 4 videos a week. We'll try to structure it that way. But I don't know how that's necessarily going to be structured that way. We might do, like if we do a Vintage Cube draft, we might do the draft in one video, and then game 1 in one video, game 2 in a video, game 3 in a video, that kind of thing. But we're gonna try some stuff out, and then you might have 3 videos that are 3 different formats. That might happen.
Yeah.
We don't know, but hang in there with us. Appreciate you guys watching. We recently got over 2,000 views on the channel, which is just like
That's cool.
So cool. So hang in with us, and again, let us know if you like stuff, if you don't like stuff, what you'd like to see down in the description below.